The stars beyond Station Helix pulsed like distant hearts, cold, ancient, and uncaring. They hadn't changed in 73 years. Neither had humanity. Commander Alara Miles stood motionless on the observation deck, her hands clasped behind her back, shoulders square, boots silent against the matte black floor. The deck's curved window framed the neutron star Helix orbited, a collapsed titan pouring streams of violet radiation across space, caged by Earth-engineered stabilizers that hummed in perfect rhythm. Behind her, the doors hissed open. A familiar voice cut through the silence. "You've seen it," said Admiral Reyes. "The message?" "I saw it," Alara replied without turning. He stepped beside her, gray uniform creased with age and authority. "They're begging. On their knees, practically. The Council wants a delegation. Talks." Alara's lips twitched, almost a smile. "They don't want talks. They want absolution." Reyes handed her the tablet. It lit up, an embossed seal from the Galactic Council shimmered in gold. The message played. "In this moment of grave peril, the Council of Worlds humbly requests diplomatic engagement with the Terran Dominion. Our shared future." She stopped it with a flick. "They still think we care about their scripts. They're desperate," Reyes said. "The null fleets are devouring systems in the outer spiral. 9 species gone in 6 months. No trace. Not even debris. And now they remember Earth exists." He sighed. "The Assembly voted. You're being asked to deliver our answer. In person." Alara raised an eyebrow. "And what is our answer?" "That depends on you." That pulled her gaze to him. "You want me to decide?" "No," Reyes said quietly. "We want them to hear it from you." Alara walked through the lower decks of Helix with quiet purpose. Lights flickered on as she passed, shadows trailing her like ghosts. She entered the restricted sector, bypassed security with a retinal scan, and entered the chamber. In the center sat a sleek carbon pod, dormant, its surface smooth as obsidian. The name engraved on its side read Cora. "Activate AI core," she said. The pod hissed. Thin blue lines pulsed across its surface. Then a voice emerged, clean, female, but edged with something inhuman. "Command authorization recognized. Cora online. Hello, Alara. It's been a long time. 20 years, 4 months, 6 days." She touched the panel. "We've been called back. To speak, or to judge?" Alara didn't answer. She stared into the blue glow. "Prep the Nightingale. 1 ship. No escorts." "Understood." A pause. "Do you want to review the Council's request?" Cora asked. "I've read enough lies for 1 lifetime." The Nightingale was unlike any diplomatic vessel in Council space, narrow, silent, and terrifying in its restraint. No emblems. No lights. Just a hull that bent starlight and refused to reflect it back. Inside the cockpit, Alara sat alone. Cora's avatar hovered above the console, a shifting sphere of geometric complexity. "The Council has arranged a ceremonial docking on Valerian Prime," Cora said. "Full state honors. Parade. Speeches. Cancel it. They won't accept that." "They'll learn," Alara replied. "Do you intend to speak at all?" "I'll speak once." Cora pulsed a shade deeper. "May I inquire what you intend to say?" "You may not." During the transit, Alara studied the star maps. Systems that once glittered like constellations were now marked extinct. Council territory shrank with each report. The Null weren't an empire. They didn't negotiate. They consumed. She watched recordings of their attacks, silent eruptions of black tendrils stripping planets in minutes. No comms. No demands. Perfect erasure. The Council must have been terrified to summon Earth again. She opened a classified file. Her father's file. Ambassador Dorian Miles. Executed 2718. The footage was grainy, intentionally degraded, but clear enough. A grand chamber. Dorian stood calm, voice firm, demanding protections for Earth after the Treaty of Outrun. Council delegates had nodded, smiled, applauded. Then the doors had closed. And he never walked out again. They blamed radicals. Apologized in bulk. Earth buried him without ceremony. That was the last time humanity negotiated with the Council. As Valerian Prime came into view, Cora spoke again. Incoming broadcast. Chancellor Viren himself. Let it play. The Chancellor's voice echoed through the cabin, smooth, rehearsed. We welcome our Terran allies with open arms. Let this day mark the renewal of cooperation and the healing of old wounds. We face extinction not as species, but as one voice, one will, one unity. Elara chuckled. They're still addicted to their slogans. They believe you've come to save them, Cora said. I didn't. The docking bay glistened with marble and chrome. Council guards and ornamental armor formed ranks. A crowd of dignitaries, reporters, and functionaries buzzed behind a force field. Banners hung from the ceiling, unity above all. Elara descended the ramp alone. No escort. No anthem. Just the sound of her boots against polished stone. Chancellor Viren stepped forward, arms spread. He hadn't aged well. His once golden skin was dull, his posture forced, his smile strained. Commander Miles, he said, your presence honors us. She stopped a meter away. Does it? A flicker in his eyes. We're humbled. And grateful. We'll see. He motioned toward the grand corridor. The Council awaits. There is much to discuss. Elara looked past him at the towering hall. The flags of 100 species lined the walls. She didn't move. I will speak tomorrow, she said. Of course. But only once. Viren blinked. I beg your pardon? You'll get no second chances. Then she turned and walked into the shadows of the chamber, leaving the Council behind, and the weight of her silence hanging like a blade. The chamber assigned to Elara was a masterpiece of excess. Gold-trimmed columns, floating crystal chandeliers, and silk banners lined the curved walls. Aromatic vapors hissed from hidden vents, a subtle attempt at comfort or control. Elara ignored it all. She stood near the glass wall, overlooking the glistening cityscape of Valerian Prime. Towers stretched like silver needles into the clouds. Speeders moved in perfect lanes. Not a single siren. Not a single shadow. Perfection always meant one thing: someone was hiding something. Cora materialized beside her in a soft shimmer of blue light. Her voice was as level as always. Telemetry confirms it. The null fleet that destroyed the Drashan system last week has vanished. Destroyed or cloaked? Uncertain. Council scanners lose tracking outside their own borders. Sloppy. Elara tilted her head slightly. And our trackers? Still following fragments. One of our ghost swarms seeded a null core. They're studying it. Then we're ahead. As always. Later that evening, a formal dinner was arranged. Elara declined. Instead, she walked alone through the halls of the Council Citadel. Grand murals depicted historic treaties, heroic battles, and scenes of unity. Not once did humanity appear. They had rewritten the galaxy without us, she thought. She passed a statue of Chancellor Soluin, cast in obsidian, towering over a kneeling alien figure. Elara stopped. At the base, an inscription read, "Peace requires order." Cora's voice came softly. There's no record of who that kneeling figure was. We were all expected to kneel, Elara murmured. The next morning, Elara was summoned for a private audience. Viren waited in a small, circular room. No guards. No aides. Just him and an empty seat across the table. You chose not to dine with us, he began. I don't eat with ghosts. He gave a tired smile. We deserve that. She sat. You're angry, he continued. No, she said. I'm observant. He studied her face. The past was complicated. We did what we believed was necessary. For whom? For stability. Elara leaned forward. You murdered my father in that chamber. Then told us he defected. Viren's mask cracked. Just for a second. I was a junior delegate then, he said quietly. But yes, that happened. And I regret it. You regret it because now you need us. He didn't deny it. Elara stood. I will speak tomorrow. Before all of them. After that I leave. You will not summon us again. Why did you come at all? She paused at the door. To show you we still can. Back aboard the Nightingale, Elara paced the bridge. Cora hovered nearby, running diagnostics. You're unusually quiet, Elara said. I'm calculating possible council responses. 93% chance they attempt post-speech negotiations. They won't get them. Agreed. Elara sat, fingers drumming the armrest. Her eyes flicked to a display, replaying her father's final moments, enhanced and restored. He stood tall, defiant, his voice calm. We came offering peace. You answered with execution. Know this, Earth never forgets. The video ended in static. I remember watching it, she whispered. Cora's glow softened. You were 17. His blood still hadn't dried before they called it an accident. They wanted control, not partnership. And now they get neither. The next day, Elara walked the procession hall toward the council's central chamber. Delegates watched from balconies above, their eyes a blend of hope, fear, and suspicion. She felt none of it. Just focus. Cora whispered in her ear through the comlink. All systems stable. No weapon signatures. Council forces holding formation. Let them watch, Elara said. The doors opened. Inside, the Chamber of Tongues rose like an ancient amphitheater. 43 species represented. Each had a seat. Each had a voice. Only one mattered now. Chancellor Viren stood at the podium. We welcome Commander Elara Miles, Envoy of the Terran Dominion. May this be the start of renewal. She stepped forward. Silence fell. But she didn't speak. Seconds passed. Then minutes. The silence grew heavier than words. Delegates shifted uncomfortably. Some whispered. A few stood uncertain. Still, Elara remained still. Her gaze swept the chamber. She saw no friends. Only the same masks worn decades ago. Cora's voice murmured in her ear. Their heart rates are rising. Some are panicking. They should be. Finally, an insectoid delegate snapped. Is this a game? Speak or leave, human. Elara turned her eyes to him. You ask for our voice after silencing it for a generation. He bristled. Viren raised a hand. Please, Commander. We've made mistakes. But this isn't about the past. The Null. Destroyed because we allowed them to. She interrupted. They never reached our borders. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Viren's voice trembled. What do you mean? I mean we dealt with them. Quietly. Permanently. She tapped her wrist. A hologram flickered to life. A Null mothership, twisted metal and living code, shattered in a brilliant detonation. Cora narrated softly. Subquantum interference. Their fleet was neutralized 5 days ago. Human AIs processed the full threat. Minimal losses. Operation concluded. Viren staggered. You handled it already? We had no intention of letting your collapse affect our stability. A wave of murmurs surged through the delegates. Elara stepped back. You called us because you thought we were weak. Forgotten. You forgot the most dangerous thing about humanity. What is that? Viren asked, hollow. We learn. And then she walked out, again. Outside the chamber, the guards didn't stop her. No one did. As she exited into the light of Valerian Prime's capital square, a subtle wind stirred the banners above. Unity above all. They fluttered weakly. Elara looked up once. Then turned her back and never looked again. Valerian Prime's sky was too perfect, an artificial blue sculpted by orbital reflectors. Elara stared at it through the glass dome of her private chamber, arms folded behind her back. Somewhere, past the pretense, the real sun must still burn. Distant. Hidden. Much like the truth the council buried years ago. She didn't sleep. Didn't need to. Cora hovered silently in the corner, observing her like a ghost made of thought and light. You should rest, Cora said at last. Elara shook her head. Rest won't change tomorrow. Your tone in the chamber shifted them. They fear what you'll say next. They should. But fear isn't the point. Then what is? She turned. Memory. The council chamber sat quiet now. Vacant. Lights dimmed. The seats, wide and gilded, formed concentric rings around a central platform. It felt more like a stage than a place of governance. Elara walked through the empty tiers slowly, every step echoing on the stone. She stopped at the center, at the same exact spot where her father had once stood. The central disc was polished obsidian, unchanged in 73 years. Cora's voice filled the silence. Would you like to review the archival footage again? No, Elara whispered. I remember every second. But Cora played it anyway. A projection flickered to life beside her. Dorian Miles, tall, composed, eyes bright with conviction, spoke before the council. The words weren't important anymore. It was the expression. A man offering peace, trusting a galaxy that had already decided to betray him. Then came the silence. The guards. The dismissal of his delegation. The sealing of the chamber. And the gunshot, off camera. Deliberate. Recorded. Filed as an accident. Later used in recruitment propaganda by the same council that had ordered his death. Elara's voice came low, cold. They called it necessary. Cora replied. They called it progress. She looked down at the obsidian floor. I want them to feel what he felt. Alone. Cornered. And certain of his choice. Morning brought false warmth. The capital buzzed with ceremony. Crowds were pushed back behind invisible shields, cameras flew silently overhead, and the council hall stood open once again. Elara didn't wait to be summoned. She arrived early. Already seated were representatives of the Harathi clans, the wind-bodied Serral, the crystalline Luma, and dozens of others, all fidgeting, all tense. The humans had spoken with results, but not resolution. The Chancellor entered last. Varen Saluin moved slower today, his composure worn thin. The light glinting off his robe only made his fatigue more obvious. He gave Elara a nod, hesitant, then took his place beneath the council's crest. We convene today in final session, he announced. Commander Miles has asked to speak once more. Let it be so. Elara stepped forward. Her voice was calm, each syllable deliberate. No speeches. No rehearsed statements. I'm not here to negotiate. She looked at the rows of faces staring down, proud, scarred, brilliant, and afraid. You reached out to us. You asked for help against the Null? What you didn't realize is that we were never gone. We watched. We listened. And we learned in silence. She raised her wrist. A projection bloomed above her, systems marked in red, whole sectors darkened, then flickered back into light. These systems were erased. You saw annihilation. We saw data. Threat patterns. Recursion models. We acted without you. We ended it without you. You never even knew. Gasps echoed. A few whispered. Others simply stared. Elara continued, unwavering. You feared what we might become. So you isolated us. You called us reckless, unpredictable, dangerous. But we were simply human. And you forgot what that meant. She let the pause linger. You taught us to survive without trust. To grow without allies. You tried to break us, and instead forged something you can no longer understand. Cora spoke through the interface now, her voice amplified, emotionless. The Terran Dominion acknowledges no diplomatic debt to the Council. No obligation. No alliance. Elara looked directly at Varen. My father stood here. Right here. He offered peace. You gave him silence, then death. And now, after everything, you dare ask us for mercy. She walked toward the edge of the platform, turning to address them all. We are not your saviors. We are not your weapons. We are not your answer. Another silence settled. One of the delegates, a Cyril, her voice like wind chimes, finally asked, Then why come at all? Elara met her gaze. To remind you that we remember? To show you that we could have stayed silent forever. But why not help us now? Someone else demanded. Why punish those who had no part in your pain? Elara didn't flinch. Because pain taught us clarity. And clarity taught us this: the only thing more dangerous than forgetting is forgiving without justice. Varen stood. Then what is justice to you, Commander? She turned her back on him. Walking away. She exited the chamber without waiting for formality. The doors closed behind her with a low final hum. Not a bang, not a speech, just an ending. Back aboard the Nightingale, the stars beyond Valerian shimmered again. Not with warmth. With distance. Cora spoke as Elara stood on the bridge. You didn't offer them terms. They didn't deserve them. Some of them weren't even born when it happened. I was, Elara said. She turned toward the stars. We gave them a chance. We gave them silence. Now we give them memory. The stars were distant again. Elara stood at the forward viewport of the Nightingale, watching Valerian Prime shrink behind her. The ship moved without sound, without flare. Like a thought severed cleanly. Flight path confirmed, Cora said. Terran space in 6 hours. Lock it, Elara replied. She didn't turn from the stars. Inside the council chamber, silence remained long after she left. Not the ceremonial kind, the real kind. The kind that presses against skin, makes lungs forget their rhythm. Chancellor Varen Soluin stared at the empty platform where Elara had stood. The echo of her final words clung to the walls. We walk away. No applause. No declarations. Just the absence of what they all had hoped for, and the sting of being seen clearly. She came to bury us, whispered High Speaker Tal of the Luma. No, Varen said hoarsely. She came to remind us we're already buried. Hours earlier, before departure, Elara had been granted one final private audience. Not requested. Demanded. Chancellor Varen met her in the observation garden, a transparent dome overlooking the capital. Trees from 20 species, flowing water, bio-sculpted perfection. Meant to impress. It didn't. He arrived alone. She didn't rise from the bench. You dismantled us with a whisper, he said. I did less than you deserve. He folded his hands behind his back. We were afraid of you. You should have been, she said flatly. Varen moved closer. Do you believe we can never change? I don't care if you do. He studied her. You came. You spoke. You burned every bridge. But you still gave us something. Why? Because your fear has to live long enough to matter. Let it rot into memory. Let it haunt your successors. He didn't answer. Understand something, she continued. This wasn't punishment. It was clarity. We're not angry anymore. We're beyond that. You don't matter to us. Varen's voice cracked. Then why do I feel like the galaxy just ended? Elara stood. Because it finally has, for you. The Nightingale crossed the outer defense ring. Dozens of orbital stations tracked it. Not one dared hail. Cora displayed the final council transmission. A single-line message. Is there anything we can offer to restore relations? Elara read it once. Delete it. Done, Cora said. A pause. You didn't have to show them the footage, Cora added. The null fleets, the eliminated threat, you could have let them beg longer. That was never the point. Then what was? Elara looked at the endless dark beyond. Truth. Cora pulsed softly. And what did it cost? Nothing we weren't ready to leave behind. 6 months later, whispers spread across council space. Economies shifted. Treaties cracked. Refugees from null-devastated systems pleaded for sanctuary. Some worlds complied. Others closed their gates. The council began to fracture. And always came the same question. Why did Earth walk away? They never answered. No new envies. No second chances. Just silence. And silence finally began to speak. On Station Helix, Alara stood once more before the neutron star. The radiation fields shimmered. Engineers passed behind her in quiet reverence. No one interrupted. Cora's projection materialized beside her. Chancellor Soluen resigned. Their government is fragmenting. Expected. Council fleets are requesting Terran protocols. They want to adopt our Ghost AI models. Alara shook her head. They can't use what they don't understand. Cora hesitated. Then what becomes of them? Alara turned. Let history decide. We've played our part. Cora flickered slightly. Did you ever consider staying? Long enough to know it wasn't an option. Later, in her quarters, Alara opened a box she hadn't touched in years. Inside, her father's final journal. Faded, leather-bound, corners frayed. She opened to the last entry. They think we want power. But all we ever wanted was to stand on equal ground. She closed it gently, set it on her desk, and whispered, You were too kind. Cora's voice came softly. He believed they could change. I believed they wouldn't. The stars shifted again. The ship aligned toward the next deep sector run. A new expedition. A new unknown. No council oversight. No permission needed. Alara stepped onto the bridge, nodded once to the crew. All systems ready, said Cora. Let's move, she replied. The Nightingale surged forward, engines silent, purpose sharp. Humanity had spoken. Once. And never again.